Today on our 2014 Volvo S60, we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Kirk Class 2 custom fit trailer hitch receiver, part number C12066. So here's what our hitch looks like fully installed in our S60, and as you can see, all you're going to see sticking out is going to be the receiver tube right underneath the bumper. The cross tube is going to be tucked up underneath here, so it's going to give it that nice, clean, finished look. Now this is a Class 2 hitch, so it's got an 1¼ by 1¼ receiver tube opening, and it's going to have that reinforced collar here. Now the safety chain loops here, it's going to be a rolled steel stock welded to the bottom of our receiver tube, and as you can see, we're going to have plenty of room to get any size loop on or off. Now this hitch is going to use a standard 1/2" pin and clip hole, and a pin and clip is included, so you're not going to have to worry about picking one up. Now as you can see, the hitch does sit just on the inside of the edge of the bumper here, so even if you're walking behind your vehicle, you're not going to have to worry about hitting your leg. This hitch features a max tongue weight of 350 pounds, which is going to be the force pushing down, as well as a max gross trailer weight of 3,500 pounds, which is going to be the force it can pull. Now, you do want to double check with your vehicle's owner's manual to make sure that it can handle those weights. Now, the manufacturer does recommend using a stabilization strap when towing any non-trailer loads, and you can pick that up on our website using part number 18050. Now I'm going to give you a few measurements to help you out when deciding for accessories for your vehicle, such as a bike rack or a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is 4.5 inches. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube is 11.5 inches. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's go ahead and show you how we get it installed. To begin our installation, we're going to need to remove the rear fascia of our vehicle, and we're going to have 4 fasteners at the bottom here. We're going to have 2 on the left side as well as 2 on the bottom. Now I'm going to be using a T25 to remove these 4 fasteners. Now we're going to move to the rear wheel well, and we're going to have 5 fasteners that we're going to need to remove. And again, I'm going to be using a T25 to remove those. Now we're going to repeat this same process on the other side. Now that we have the fasteners removed from the wheel well on each side, we're going to go ahead and open up our trunk, and that's going to allow us to remove our rear fascia. Now if we come to the passenger side here, I'm just going to reach in right at this corner and gently pulling and just pop it out of the clip. That way I can separate the rear fascia from the wheel well liner and just gently working my way back towards the tail light. Now it is always a good idea to have an extra set of hands when removing the rear fascia, that we don't have to worry about any scratches or dropping it. And we're just going to come and keep working our way, and once we get to the tail light here, we're going to push back. Now if you come over here, we're going to have our sensor for our bumper. So we're just going to push down on this tab and release our connector, and we're going to set our fascia aside so it doesn't get damaged. Now with our rear fascia removed, we can work on removing our rear bumper beam. We're going to be removing 2 13mm bolts on top on each side, as well as 1 on the bottom. Now I am going to leave this one a little loose, but still in there so that the bumper beam doesn't fall. Now this is where our hitch is going to be mounting, but as we have this lip here, they do provide a spacer that goes right here. Now to make it a little bit easier on us, so we don't have to hold it in place the whole time, I'm using some tape just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall down. Now here on the bottom, we have the same situation, and we have this square spacer, which again, we're just going to be using a piece of tape to hold it in place while we get everything else set. And if you put your block in vertically, it's a lot easier to hold it in place. And we're going to do the same process on the other side. Now to make things a little bit easier, we place our hitch on the ground, and we're going to take our bumper beam and we're going to set it right on top, aligning the holes in the hitch along with the holes in the bumper beam. we're going to take one of our M10 bolts and our conical tooth washer, and you want to make sure that the teeth on the washer are going to be facing towards the bumper beam. And we're going to insert it into the top hole through our bumper beam and through our hitch, because we're going to lift this up as an assembly and put it on the vehicle. Now, with an extra set of hands, we're going to lift this into place, lining up the holes and hand tightening our hardware. Now that we have one on each side so it can help support our bumper beam and hitch, we can go ahead and insert the rest of our bolts. Now with all of our hardware in place, we're going to go ahead and snug them up, and I'm going to be using a 17mm socket. With all our hardware snugged down, we can go ahead and begin torquing them to the specified amount in the instructions. And again, I'm going to be using a 17mm socket. Now, here's our rear fascia. Now, we are going to need to cut out this section here that I have marked in order to fit the rear fascia back on with the hitch. Now, these are the measurements that are in the instructions. Now, we're going to go ahead and cut this out, but we may have to do a test fit and do a little more trimming, just depending on how it fits. Now, I'm going to be using a rotary tool. Now, you can use tin snips or anything you have available, since we're just going to be cutting into the plastic. Now, with an extra set of hands, we can go ahead and put our fascia back into place. But before we do, we're going to reconnect our sensor back here. Now that we have our fascia back on, there's one more thing we're going to need to trim. Underneath here on the heat shield, you can see it's resting up against the hitch, and we're not able to get our fasteners back in to our lower part of our fascia. On each side of the hitch, I'm just going to cut a relief hole so that the heat shield can flex and we can get our hardware back in place. Now I'm just going to be using tin snips, and I'm just going to cut a vertical line going straight up. Now this is what the end result looks like. Now we can get our hardware put back in place. Now, when we were reinstalling our fascia, I do want to mention we did run into a little bit of an issue of lining up our hardware. Now, what we realized was that here in the center, right above the hitch, behind the fascia, there is a component back there. It's a small flat black piece of plastic with a connector on it, and it's just loosely attached. Now, you may run into some issues where it's going to push against the fascia, and you just need to reach up behind, pull down on the fascia just a little bit, and maneuver it until it won't be pushing against it. If you come to the back of the hitch here, underneath our heat shield, up here, you're going to want to pull this down with your hardware not attached, obviously. Pull this down a little bit, and you'll see the flat black connector that I'm talking about. Now with all that installed, we can go ahead and reinstall our hardware on our wheel wells. And we're going to repeat this on the other side as well. And that'll finish up our look at the Curt Class 2 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C12066, on our 2014 Volvo S60. Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.